At the top of the news tonight, identity theft, identity fraud. It's a $5.8 billion industry. Sadly, I have firsthand knowledge of this because my identity was breached. And I'm very fortunate because we have with us here today Robert Siciliano. But before he introduces himself, I want to show you a little bit about this guy.
Joining me now, Robert Siciliano, CEO of ID Theft.
Security expert Robert Siciliano says your ATM may be
security consultant armed with the info to help you burn the bad guys.
I'm Robert Siciliano, and I'm a personal security expert.
before you swipe.
Consumers should be suspicious of every ATM machine.
Personal security expert Robert Siciliano says your ATM may be rogue, giving crooks access to your life savings.
It doesn't matter if it's a standalone, at a convenience store, or at a bank branch, they're all vulnerable. An magnetic strip is everything a criminal needs to clone your card.
Scam number one. Our security expert purchased a used ATM online. No regulations, no problem. If he were a criminal, he'd just drop that ATM off and put it to work. Well, that's just what we did.
The man, the myth, the legend, Robert Siciliano, welcome.
Hey, buddy. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah. I actually bought that ATM off of Craigslist. I was I forget, I was looking for like a bike for my kid or something, and I saw an ATM for sale, and I didn't even know you could buy an ATM online, never mind off of Craigslist. So I called the guy up, and I was like, "So you're selling an ATM?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Anybody can just buy an ATM?" He's like, "Oh, of course, yeah." So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna come up and take a look," because I just wanted to check it out. So I stuffed my pockets full of some cash, and I called my hacker. And I said, "Hey, we're going to go look at an ATM." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I go, "There's a guy selling an ATM up in Beverly, Mass." And he's like, "All right." So we went up, and he's asking $1,000. He showed us how it all worked. I talked him down to $700, and I bought it because by the time he was done, I just had to have it, you know. And I brought the ATM, threw the ATM in the back of my truck, and my hacker and we dropped it off at my home office in the garage. And then the next morning, my hacker calls me at 5 a.m. He's like, "Dude, I've been out all night long. I drank a case of Red Bull. I read the whole manual on this ATM. I'm coming over." I'm like, "Dude, it's click." He shows up at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I had a pot of coffee on. He plugs the ATM in the garage, plugs it in, and it starts beeping and booting up. And then he starts punching a bunch of codes into the ATM's keypad, and out spits the receipt. Now, the receipt spit like 30 feet long. It was printed like 30 feet long. And I start looking at it. He starts laughing. It had over 1,000 credit and debit card numbers on it. So I bought a data breach. The guy at the bar never cleared the ATM's logs. So the next thing we did was I called Fox, because that's what you do. And they sent down a producer, a camera guy, and a guy with a fuzzy mic. I put a car battery inside the ATM with a step-up transformer. I affixed an ATM skimming device and a small wireless camera onto the machine because, you know, I got skimmers and I got cameras. And we deployed the ATM into downtown Boston at Faneuil Hall. And pretty much immediately, people started to use the ATM. Now, it didn't dispense any cash, but it did record their card number and their PIN code as they punched it into the keypad with the camera. And as they walked away, the cameraman and the producer intercepted them and showed them, you know, the video and what they did. And they get all freaked out. And we, you know, explained like it was a scam. We bought off a Craigslist, and we let them delete the video. And then a big Boston cop saw what we were up to, and he like interrupted the whole process. He's like, "If you guys were to get out of here, I'm going to arrest all of you." So we packed up and went over to Fenway Park and launched it over there. And man, I got like 5-6 TV shows out of that, and I still have that ATM if you want to pull another scam.
You know, we are inundated with scams. So, give me your background. How did you get started in this?
So I've been involved in security ever since I was a kid. Like I got beat up when I was 12 by 5 kids in downtown Boston. I met a girl who was sexually assaulted when I was 13. She was 12, and that kind of messed my head up because, I didn't even know what sex was, never mind rape. And so security became my focus as far as personal security goes. And so over the years, I started to take self-defense and teach self-defense, mainly because I was bullied and because young women in my life, I was concerned for them in regards to their physical security. Because at the age of 13, I knew what rape was. And this is 41 years ago where we didn't have that kind of education, but I did, and so I started teaching self-defense, and then I started a business selling pepper sprays and stun guns and all that stuff over the years. And that turned into speaking and training women on self-defense. And then in 1995, I got my first computer. It was an IBM PS1 Consultant with a Windows 3.10 and a 150 megabyte hard drive, right? And I had merchant status, the ability to accept credit cards. And within a week, I got hacked. This is in 95, 96. And I didn't know anything about that back then, but they stole $3,000 worth of product and credit card fraud. And as upset as I was, I wanted to know how they did it. I was enamored by how much money they made in such a short period of time. And they never had to, hold anybody up or rob anybody or use a gun or anything. I was like, this is huge. This is big. This is going to be huge. In 1999, a good friend of mine, her identity got stolen, pure identity theft. Her social security number got stolen, and somebody opened up a bunch of accounts under her name. And when I saw that, they made thousands and thousands of dollars off of her, I was like, this identity theft, this hacking thing is going to be the biggest thing ever. It's the easiest crime to commit and the hardest crime to get caught for. So I started to write about it and speak about it in 2000, 2001. And then, 9/11 hit, and my business at the time was growing. But then after 9/11, it kind of took off. And then I've just been, writing books and writing articles and doing TV and media and speaking about this topic now for 25, 30 years. And yeah.
Wow. Well, you're certainly a guy in the know. I got a couple of comments. Ed Chipolowski, good evening, everyone. And Paul, I will be taking notes for this very important show. I'm going to reveal some good stuff. Robert's going to reveal some good stuff. Craig Tomazik, hello, everyone. This is absolutely insane. So let me tell you what happened to me. Okay. I'm the guy that's it's always careful. I don't like to disclose, credit card numbers or anything like that. I'm the guy that's always hiding the keypad. I get a phone call. It was about February of this year from some collection agency. So apparently they thought I owed $1,100 to AT&T in some town in Georgia. Well, I've never lived in Georgia. I've never had AT&T phone service. But yet somehow somebody opened an account in my name, and you need social security number, you need date of birth, you need all the PII, personally identifiable information, in order to open an account. So I didn't really think much of it at the time, and I just kept telling, and then they kept calling. I just kept telling the guy, hey, buzz off, stop calling me. I don't owe AT&T any money. I don't have any business with them, and certainly will never have business with them going forward. Goes on and on. Now the other day, my credit reporting agency flashes me that there's a derogatory blemish put on my credit file. So I log in from my computer, and I see that, this is that AT&T thing they were talking about. Now it hit my credit report. At that point, then it became a little bit more real. I didn't really think of identity theft at the time when the bill showed up, because I knew it wasn't me and I didn't think anything of it. When I called the credit monitoring service, then they informed me of another breach or another account that was also in collections from Spectrum, something with telecom.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, wow. That's that. Now it's a problem, because now it became real, because now it's publicly announced that I was behind on bills.
Right.
So
And
I called them.
as well.
Yeah, it's so fortunately, because I caught it. I mean, it was less than $200. I mean, it was less than $2,000 between the both fake accounts that were opened, and those fake accounts were shut down. But I learned there are some steps. Okay, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. I think most everybody, certainly everybody in the car business or banking business, knows about these credit reporting agencies. And I checked my credit, and there was no blemish. There was no inquiry or anything listed on my file anywhere. Then so the first thing you do is you want to freeze your credit.
Yeah.
You want to freeze it so that nobody can open up credit, and you want to put a fraud alert, right? So anytime anybody tries to open up an account, you get called. But I also learned about two other ones. This one is Chex Systems. That's CHEXSYSTEMS. And one, it's a website, and like November Charlie Tango Umbrella Echo.com. These are two credit agencies that are used by telecom, which apparently is a very common scam for people to commit. I never heard of these two. So I also froze my credit and put fraud alerts on all of those. Now, had I known about being able to freeze all of my credit files and these extra two that I never heard of, and put fraud alerts on everything so that I get a phone call should anybody want to open an account in my name, I certainly probably could have stopped those two incidences from happening. But I didn't know. I was more scratching my head to think, where did this happen? Was it when I spoke with my insurance company? But it goes so beyond that, because there were huge data breaches, right, Robert? Big companies?
Yeah, huge. So think of Equifax, right? Equifax got breached 2017-ish. They had 2/3 of the American adult population's social security numbers compromised, right? Names, addresses, phone numbers, some credit card information, some driver's license information. But your social security number being, the key to the kingdom, your primary identifier. It's used not just, of course, for social security benefits, but for pretty much all credit access, right? And so once the bad guy has your social, they can open up new lines of credit under your name. We call that new account fraud. So new account fraud is pure identity theft. That's when they get your name, your address, your social security number, and they open new lines of credit under your name. Now, not in all situations will the bill go to your physical address. Usually it'll go to the physical address of a Dropbox, or even the bad guys using like a fake address somewhere. But it's your name and your social that they need. And once they open up those new lines of credit under your name, they can do that until you stop it, right? Proactively, what you want to do right now is get credit freezes, like you said. So if you do a quick search, and you can see, right over my shoulder here, I did a quick search on credit freeze TransUnion. You can see that, Paul, right?
Yeah.
Is that clear to you? So you search credit freeze TransUnion. So when you search credit freeze TransUnion, what Google automatically propagates is credit freeze Equifax, credit freeze Experian, and so on. So, millions of people are doing the exact same search. So what we're going to do first is we'll go to freeze my credit at transunion.com. So transunion.com/credit freeze. You click on that, and it brings you to the page on TransUnion's website to freeze your credit. Now, here's the deal, right? I would rather you go to and search credit freeze TransUnion and go to the page on their site, opposed to going to their home page and trying to find it there. Because if you go to the home page, inevitably they're going to redirect you and try to sell you something that you don't need. So I just want you to go to the page. So right here we are. Credit freeze is also known as a security freeze. Is the best way to help prevent new accounts from being opened in your name. It's absolutely free to freeze and unfreeze your credit, and it won't affect your credit score. Okay, perfect, right? So right here, you see this button where it says add freeze or unfreeze. Now, I've had my credit frozen since February of 2008. which was the first month the credit freezes were available. Right? I did it right away. So if I want to unfreeze, I just click unfreeze, and all of the data that needs to be filled out is actually stored in my password manager to make it really easy to unfreeze my credit. So let's just say it's the first time you're going to freeze your credit. Go to add freeze, right? And it brings you to a form, right? A credit freeze through TransUnion. Use this to dispute or request a credit report, manage a freeze, and so forth. So what they're asking for is first name, middle name, last name, address, city, state, and zip. And they want your email, your mobile number, and the last 4 of your social. Give it to them and don't worry about it. They have it already anyways, okay? Once you fill all this out, they're going to ask you some knowledge-based authentication questions. And then within 5 to 10 minutes, your credit is frozen. Do it at TransUnion, do it at Equifax, and do it at Experian. Same thing. You search Experian credit freeze. You end up on this page right here. Freeze your credit file for free and so forth. But like you said, you've also got to do it at Chex Systems, okay? So when you Google Chex Systems credit freeze, bang, right there, Chex Systems security freeze information at Chex Systems. It talks about it right here. Place your security freeze right here, explore more, bang. Right here, it walks you through the process, and do the same thing at the credit bureau called Innovis, INNOVIS. Right here, add or manage a freeze, see INN right here.
Hold on. That's INNOVIS?
Yeah. If you do these 5, 6 credit bureaus, it'll be very difficult for a bad guy to use your social to open up any new lines of credit anywhere.
Now, let me add this in here. Most of the time, we don't know this until it's already too late. freecreditreport.com. Yeah. You're able to get your free credit report. It's a full file where you check it with a fine-tooth comb to see if there are any accounts opened in your name. And here's
you won't get your credit scores. They don't give you your scores for free, but they'll give you your full credit report, all of the current and previous revolving lines of credit.
Yep, the data. So you want to run that freecreditreport.com to get your full credit. It's going to be a thick file. And you want to look at each one and see if there are any accounts you don't recognize.
Right.
It's very important. Highlight each of the ones you don't recognize. Now, here's why you want to proactively check. Because, yes, they can buy your information, but the crime isn't always going to be perpetrated immediately. And what I mean by that is some thieves, what they do is they establish lines of credit in your name that you don't know about. They then establish good credit with those over a period of time.
Right.
Until the credit lines get elevated. Once the credit lines get elevated, they cash out like an ATM machine and run.
Right. Right. Which is why it's important right now to be proactive and freeze your credit. So the deal is credit bureaus, retailers, the entire credit industry, lenders in general, they don't want you to have a credit freeze. Anybody lending any money or extending credit does not want you to have a credit freeze. We live in a credit-driven society. And so a credit freeze, they say, gums up the system of credit, whereas it really doesn't. You know, my credit's been frozen now. What are we at? 14 years. And in 14 years, you know, as a 50-something-year-old adult, I have probably temporarily thawed my credit 10 times in the past 14 years. You know, I lease a vehicle every 3 years, and I got a couple of them now. So figure, you know, in the past 10 years or whatever, I've checked my credit maybe 6 times or whatever for leasing a vehicle. And then I refinanced a couple of times. That's like, you know, 6, 7, 8. And then I think I got a Visa because Costco stopped taking American Express. And one more time for something, I forget why. So on average, you might freeze your credit, you know, once every year or two, or unfreeze your credit once every year or two. So it's not that big of a deal to have your credit frozen. It's just a matter of administering a thaw temporarily when you want to, you know, lease a car, buy a boat, refinance your house, whatever.
The reason these companies don't want you to freeze your credit is because they want to sell you stuff. What I uncovered in my credit report is that my credit was run for marketing purposes 67 times. 67 times. So when I get all those letters, oh, due to your good credit, we're extending you free loan, free this, free that.
Yeah.
It's not by accident. They run your credit. So when I called, while I had the person on the phone, I forget if it was Equifax or TransUnion, one of them, I said, I'm sick and I just checked my report. I have this run all the time. How do I prevent that from being run? And the woman on the phone says, well, just shut that off. I said, what? She said, we'll just shut that off. I said, excuse me? What do you mean you'll shut it off? Well, we'll just check the box that says no more marketing and they won't run your credit anymore. I said, you're kidding. It's as simple as making a phone call to stop marketing companies from running your credit to send you shit. She says, yeah.
Yeah. There's a website you can go to. I believe it's like 1-888 something something opt out of credit card offers. There's a couple ways to go about that. Experian, yeah, it's 888-5 opt out. That's one way to shut that down. Let me pull that out for everybody. Just give me 1 second here. Yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. You can make a phone call, and when you make a phone call to 1-888-5 opt out, they'll shut down most offers so that you don't actually. It's via the Fair Credit Reporting Act. They have to do that. So opt out pre-screen is another way to go about that. And that'll shut down the majority of those offers that come your way.
I mean, I couldn't believe, one, that it was run as many times as it was, and two, that it was that simple to shut that off.
Yeah. They look at, in a credit-driven society, like they want you to have full free flow and credit. But look at, all that does is make you vulnerable. And knowing right now that you can stop that, you can stem the tide of fraud and all of these illicit offers, that you become a tougher target, you become hardened. And that way, bad guys, there always has been, is, and always will be this criminal element out there. They're always going to be, going after somebody. And with billions of stolen records out there, it's just a matter of time until they get to you. And apparently they got to you already. And now that they have, and you're frozen, now they're going to move on to somebody else. Look, I have had bad guys email me my social security number, which, when that first happens, it's like a little shocking. But for me, it was like, all right, big deal. He's a bad guy flexing his muscles, just showing me how cool he is. But for me, like, my credit's been frozen all these years. It doesn't really affect me. Plus, on top of that, I have credit monitoring and identity theft protection. And when you have the multiple layers of protection, you become a much tougher target, and they're going to move on to somebody else.
Now, if anybody out there does not have this, I strongly recommend it, because with credit monitoring, they will alert you. You could set up all different kinds of things. You could set up anything spent on your credit cards. You could set up any attempts at opening up an account, anything, any derogatory message, so that you get notified if there's anything awry. And then another thing you were talking about before is two-factor authentication.
Yeah. So let's talk password management really quick, right? Let me show you a couple things, Paul. This is nuts, right? So if you go to my website, protectnowllc.com, right? Protectnowllc.com, and just scroll down a little bit, right? You'll see email checker. Check if your email has been breached. So let's talk emails being compromised, two-factor authentication, and password management all right now, okay? So click on email checker, and right here, check if your email hasn't breached. I've already pre-propagated, let me see. Did I already do it over here? No, I did not. Let me type in ROBERTSICILIANO @gmail.com. And, it's an email address I use. I click search. And my team, we have access to almost 13 billion stolen records from the dark web, okay? So what we're doing right now is we're searching all, 13-ish billion records, And it says your email and possibly your password have been stolen in the following breaches. Okay. So up top, it talks about in February 2018, a massive trove of 3,000 data breaches combined. It says that it looks like 80 million unique email addresses and their associated passwords were compromised. So I don't know what specific sites of those almost 3,000 data breaches my credentials were compromised in, but it could have been Apollo, which in July 2018, it says 126 million email addresses, including mine. A Bitcoin forum back in 2014 of 5 million Gmail passwords and Gmail usernames. Bitly in 2014, Cafe Mom, Cove, Daily Motion, Discus, Dropbox, Epic, Forbes, Photolog, Gravatar, Last.fm, LinkedIn, right? So all of these sites had a data breach. My robertsiciliano@gmail.com was affiliated with all of those breaches. Now, I didn't do anything wrong. These sites got hacked. So now that means that I've got to go to each of these sites. I've got to change my password so that those sites stay secure. Now, if you look at the LinkedIn one, in 2016, 164 million email addresses and passwords exposed. So now the problem with these data breaches for most of you is that most of you are using the same passcode across multiple accounts.
Bam.
That's the problem. So if you're using the same passcode for Facebook as you are for LinkedIn, as you are for eBay, as you are for Amazon, the bad guy gets your LinkedIn passcode and your username, which is your email address. Now they're inside of your Amazon. They're inside of your eBay. They're inside of your PayPal and so forth. So number one, you've got to change up your passcode. You can never have the same passcode twice, ever. So if you aren't using the same passcode twice, how do you manage all of these various passcodes? Well,
that's the next I was going to ask you.
You use a password manager. So right here, if you do a quick search on the Google, right, you search password manager and you'll find articles, you'll find organic results for password managers and for ads and so forth. There's an article on the first page of search, the best password managers for 2022 via PC Magazine. Okay. So you do a quick scroll down here. It shows Dashlane, Keeper, Zoho, Bitwarden, LastPass, 1Password, and so forth. You check the price, what operating systems they work on, and so on. And really, a password manager, and I've had one since 2014, is really the only way to effectively manage all the passwords that you're going to have. So if I was to go into my password manager right now, I probably have, 1,000 different sites that I'm a party to. And I don't know the passwords for more than maybe 2 or 3 of them. I know my Google passcode, I know my Apple passcode, and I know the passcode for my password manager. And that's it. So I don't need to remember all my passcodes because my password manager remembers them for me. Same thing with like my mobile phone. I couldn't tell you my mother's phone number and I couldn't tell you my father's phone number. If I want to call my mother, I search mom in my phone. If I want to call my father, I search Bob because I call him Bob. Otherwise, I don't know what their phone numbers are. I don't need to remember that. My mobile phone remembers it for me. Same thing with the password manager. And people always say, like, what if your password manager gets breached? I'm not worried about that either. So password managers have bank-level military-grade encryption. The likelihood of your password manager being breached in such a way where your credentials are exposed, to my knowledge, it hasn't happened yet. And that's, 20 years of password managers. So really the low-hanging fruit is not the password manager getting hacked. It's we, the consumer, using the same passcode across multiple accounts and that data being available on the dark web like I just showed you. When you look at all of these sites, and there's like 30 sites that are all compromised right there where my credentials are, the good news for me is I use a different passcode across every account. Each of these accounts individually are at risk temporarily until I change my passcode.
Now, let me ask you a question. Does the password manager change the password periodically?
No. So the way a password manager works is they're not what I would consider smart. They require manual intervention. So they do whatever you tell them to do. So let's just say right now I signed up for a brand new Facebook account. Yeah. So when I set up the account, it's going to ask for my username, which is an email address. It's going to ask for a passcode.
Yeah.
So my password manager will generate a passcode. Okay. It has a password generator. And so it'd be like uppercase, lowercase numbers and characters, like 12 to 14 characters, right? I would take that generated passcode, I'd copy and paste it into Facebook. And then once I log in to Facebook with all these new credentials, my password manager has a pop-up that says, hey, do you want to remember the credentials for Facebook? Yes. So now I've just trained Facebook to remember. I've just trained my password manager to remember Facebook. And going forward down the road, if I want to change the password for Facebook, I just go to Facebook, I log in, I go to the security settings, I change the passcode within Facebook, I use my password manager to generate a new passcode, copy and paste it in, and then I have my password manager remember that new credential. As simple as that. It's an administration tool that facilitates easy access to all your accounts by creating different passcodes for every account and automatically logging into each account when you click on the link in your password manager to get to that specific account. Nice and easy. Now, on top of that, we talked about two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
So two-factor authentication is as important as if not more important than having a different passcode across every account. So even if you have the same passcode across every account, which you shouldn't, having two-factor authentication will generally keep the bad guy out. Okay.
I love that.
So the way it works is, right, you have a mobile phone, I have a mobile phone, you get text messages, I get text messages. Two-factor authentication generally is your username and your passcode is the first factor, and your mobile phone and that one-time passcode that's sent to you via text is that second factor. So as long as you have your mobile phone in your possession and you've enabled two-factor authentication, say on Gmail, even if the bad guy has your Gmail address and your passcode and they log in from Romania, you're going to get a text message right away that says, hey, is this you logging in Romania? If so, do you want your one-time passcode? Obviously, it's not me, and you decline it. So two-factor authentication will shut the bad guy down. Now, as far as setting it up goes, right here, I just did a search for Google or Gmail two-factor, right? And as you can see on the first page of search, allow two-step verification, turn on two-step at support.google.com. Do the same thing for Hotmail, right? It's right there, right? Support.microsoft.com, how to use two-step verification for your Microsoft account. You do the same thing for all you dinosaurs that have AOL. Add two-step verification.
Wow. What's that?
Help.aol.com. Look at, and you should be doing the same thing for PayPal, right? I have two-factor authentication for every single account, everyone.
Ed Roberts just joined. Good evening, Ed. How are you, man? Yeah, no, that's a critical thing. Now, the phone. There was another thing also, and you said this is very difficult. I forget what it was called.
SIM swapping.
SIM swapping, where they call your phone company,
or they walk into the local dealership, the local AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon store posing as you.
And they say, hey, I just got a new phone. I need to transfer the service to my phone.
Generally, the best case scenario for the bad guy is they have your social security number to begin with. What makes the scam even more accessible is if they create a fake ID with your information on it. Now, SIM swapping is doable. It's not easy to pull off, okay? The mobile phone companies, the mobile phone stores, they have verification in place, but they don't always follow protocol. So fake IDs, having your social, having basic information about you, it's not entirely impossible for them to open up a new line or access your existing line. The best case scenario is that you have two-factor authentication enabled on your mobile phone account to begin with. That right there generally will prevent the bad guy from getting in. When somebody walks into a store to basically swap your SIM to take over your mobile phone number, which would facilitate them getting two-factor authentication under your name with your number, right?
All your accounts.
Yeah, for all your accounts, that's a problem. Where we've seen that mostly is high-value targets. So moneyed individuals that have significant crypto accounts and so forth. Targets that bad guys work really, really hard to get access to their SIM. That way they can get access to two-factor authentication in order to get access to their individual accounts. But I'm telling you, if you use two-factor authentication for all of your online accounts, including your mobile carrier, you become hardened and a much tougher target.
Now, you talked about the fake identification. A friend of mine who lived in Las Vegas for a short period of time, when he moved to the Carolinas, he went to change his driver's license.
Yeah.
And he found out at the DMV that there was a warrant out for his arrest for non-payment of parking tickets and speeding tickets. Somebody had created a false identity in his name, right down to a driver's license that they created with software.
Yeah.
Somebody else's picture on your driver's license.
Paul, do you see what's going on right here? Do you see this right here? Okay. I searched Google for fake IDs. Okay. Look at Google is selling ads for fake IDs. Look at ad. They're selling ads. Okay. And you just do a quick search on fake ID and Google is taking money from scam companies that are producing fake IDs. And look at, right, topfakeid.com, buy scannable fake ID, premium fake IDs, your trusted fake store. Like
your trusted crook.
Yeah. Welcome to ID God, fake ID that is out of this world. The official ID God established 2004. I mean, these companies are like based all over the world. It's not like the U.S. could just shut them down. But the fact of the matter is that Google is taking money from these companies for advertising. You know, so if you do like, where am I? I'm in Massachusetts. So you can get a fake ID for every, yeah, that looks just like my ID. Like that's it right there. You know, it's not rocket science. Like this, the system of identification is based on the honor system. As long as we're all honest, we're not going to have any problems, right? It's based on the idea that we're all sheep and there are no wolves. Are there wolves?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Pretty big ones.
Yeah. Don't get me started, Paul.
You know, so the password manager is great, but there are other steps too that we could take, right? So take, for instance, these games, the password guessing games. They drive me absolutely crazy.
Let me show you something. So if you go back to my website, protectnowllc.com, scroll to the bottom, check if your password has been breached. So click on that right there down the bottom, okay? Now, mind you, we don't have access to your credentials. And we're not associating usernames and passcodes, none of that stuff. We have access to 13 billion stolen records on the dark web. So right here, out of 13 billion, check if your password has been breached, right? If I type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's see how many people are using that as a passcode out of 13 billion.
A lot.
37,509,543 people are using 1 through 6 as a passcode, right? Add another 7 to that. And you've got, looks like 4,052,000. Add another 8 to that. And you've got 5,137,000. Add another 9 to that. and you've got 16 million. Is that 16,660,000. Okay. Now, if you type in, say, PASSWORD password as a password, that's being used 9,636,000 times. Add number 1 to that, and you've got 3,262,000. Look at bad guys know this, right? Bad guys know we're using easy to guess, easy to hack, easy to crack, like QWERTY, QWERTY, sequential keys across the keyboard. That's 10,579,000 times. Like, bad guys use what's called credential stuffing software, where they take your username, which in most cases is an email address, and they stuff either the passcodes that they found on the dark web or well-known, easy to guess, easy to hack, easy to crack passwords, either sequential keywords, sequential numbers, or words of the dictionary. And that's how they're getting access to your accounts.
Or personal stuff like these, your first car, your first crush, your favorite pie, all these cutesy games on Facebook and other social media sites. These are all things that people use as passwords.
Yeah, the 25 things that people don't know about me, I'm never filling that out. I'm not engaging in anything that is going to basically collate data that is, where I met my wife, where I honeymooned, the make and model of my first car. The answers to knowledge-based authentication questions can be found on your social pages if the bad guy is good enough at solving puzzles. Sarah Palin's actual email was hacked as a result of information gleaned off of her Wikipedia page.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But it gets even more nefarious than that, because I had a friend, and this is how people get preyed on. Okay. I had and older people oftentimes are easy prey.
Yeah.
So via social media, this person's life was out there. The bad guys contacted the person's grandmother, said to them, "Hey, your son, I'm the bail bondsman. Your son is in jail. You need to send cash."
Grandparent scam. Yeah.
Grandparent scam. You need to send cash. Okay. And the older person says, "Oh, is he okay? Can I speak with him?" Well, guess what? He says, "Sure, you could speak with him." Somebody imitated the grandson on the phone.
Yeah.
The grandmother fell for it. The next thing you know, several $1,000s was taken out of the bank and sent via Western Union to an address in the Boston area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the phone number that was called from was a burner phone. So by the time the money was gone and the police were called and the police called the number, they hung up and the money was gone.
Yeah. So there are certain people in your life that, like right now, you want to get a handle on their finances, right? So, we talk about elderly, and I'm thinking like, boomers-ish, 75 plus-ish.
Hey, it's all relative now, brother. It's all relative.
Listen. Certain age groups are more or less vulnerable, okay?
Absolutely.
Look at the grandmother that gets scammed for several $1,000s. We often say, well, how stupid could you be? No. She's a good person. She just wanted to help. Like she's a kind heart. She just wanted to make sure that her grandson was okay. She did it out of love. And bad guys, because they suck, they leverage the love that we have for the people in our lives against us. Yeah. And so knowing that people will do pretty much anything. They'll run through broken glass to save a family member. you've got to know that like there are certain people in your life that are more vulnerable for whatever reason. And it's good right now to get a handle on their finances, requiring second signatures, requiring something that prevents them from liquidating their own bank account because A, they want to help, or B, because they're lonely. So certain people who might be widowed or widowers that fall into a situation where they're lonely over a period of time, and they get on Match, they get on JDate, they get on Plenty of Fish, they get on Facebook. They're going to be contacted by bad guys. Guaranteed. Like that's going to happen. And when they do, when they are, it's just a matter of time until the bad guy is going to say something that touches their heart in such a way where they're going to get all, gaga over this person remotely. And before you know it, they're going to mention, I miss you. I ache for you. I want to be with you. I'm going to buy a plane ticket and send me half the money. And because I look at you as an independent woman, so we'll go Dutch on it. And once she sends half the money, he's going to find reasons to get more and more and more from her. So get a handle on those accounts now.
And that happens more often than one would think. I have a friend whose brother was duped in one of these romance scams, actually sent money for plane ticket, went to the airport. Surprise, surprise, the person didn't show up, but they don't let it go at that. She called them up and said, hey, I got hurt on the way to the airport. I'm in the hospital. They won't take my insurance card.
Right.
Can you send me $1,500 so I can get treatment?
Paul, I've got a friend who's a financial advisor in the Boston area. His dad died a few years back, and young, like in his 60s, young. And so his mom is left a widow, right? And so after a year, the mom is just out of routine and she's lonely. And my friend goes to her house like on a Sunday morning with the kids, and to see grandma. And he sees her laptop open at the kitchen table, and he sees like she's on Facebook and Match.com and everything else. And he's a little shocked, because it's his mom. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, she's like, it's like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I'm lonely. Like, I just want to talk to somebody. I still love your father, she says, but I just want to talk to somebody. He's like, all right. I understand, but do you know about the scams? And she's like, I know about the scams. Like, she was like really dismissive because, she don't want to be challenged by her son. So a few months goes by and he calls me. He's like, dude, I got a problem. He's like, my mother, apparently like she met some guy stationed in Afghanistan. He's like a colonel in the army. And apparently he found a trunk of money in one of the houses that they raided. And he asked my mother to help him get the trunk of money back to the States. Basically, like he asked her to wire money to him so that he could pay off people at all the different roadblocks and everything. Guess how much money she sent to this guy? Guess.
10 grand?
More.
20?
$235,000.
Whoa.
Paulette. Yes.
She's in the other room. She heard that.
Yes.
God.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Awful. Now
that for a lot of people, that may be an extreme case because not everybody has that kind of money. To bring it more real to everybody here, okay, some of the scams that I see and get daily, okay, the emails constantly. When we think about it, there are a certain number of websites and bank and financial institutions that people use. Most everybody has a Netflix account. How many people do you know that might have a Chase account or a Bank of America account or some of these other big companies? Or, if you're a business, you might have a Dropbox account. So bombarded daily are emails, fake emails, supposedly from these companies that tell you, oh, Facebook, someone just logged into your Facebook account.
Yeah.
Okay. Logged into your Facebook account. They use and they'll tell you what your login email is because that's something they can easily get.
Right.
And a lot of people will click on the button within that email
Right.
to show to authenticate your account now. And when they click on that, they go to a malicious site, and it could be Facebook, it could be Dropbox, it could be your email. That's another one. My email carrier. I continually get fake emails. Validate. Somebody's logged into your account. Please validate your account here. And the minute you click on that link, either you can immediately unleash a executable on your hard drive or your device, your phone.
Yeah.
Or B, you get taken to a place where they ask you to input your credentials. Once they have your credentials, then they can get into your real account and they lock you out.
Yeah. That's likely how the DNC, Clinton and others got hacked when Clinton was running, is that they set up a pretty sophisticated, Google looking fish to essentially update or access Gmail. And that's likely what happened there. That's at least, what the word is. So look at any incoming communication that ends up in your inbox, always be suspect, never just automatically click. One thing I tell everybody is ignore your spam folders, because most people, when they end up in their spam folders, they're going to get themselves in trouble. It's probably difficult for you to see on the screen right here, but like this is my spam folder on any given day. Costco member, redeem your $50 Costco bonus today. You see Walgreens gift card for $50, Bank of America message, Amazon gift card. You see Target rewards, Amex message, Medicare, Kohl's management, do not reply from PayPal, CVS rewards, another Bank of America, eFax, Amazon support, all tasty phishing lures, right? And if you start tooling around in there and start clicking links, it's going to look and seem legit enough that you're going to go down the rabbit hole and end up providing your credentials and or your credit card information and or clicking a link, which, like you said, launches an executable. So for most people, I say just stay out of your spam folders because there's just too many landmines in there, too many tasting phishing lures.
And they come daily. I've got one here. Who doesn't have a Microsoft account of something, right? Unusual account activity. We're going to shut down your system within 5 days if you don't validate. Continually, over and over and over, this happens.
Yeah. And if you get pop-ups that looks like it's coming from Amazon, it looks like it's coming from Microsoft or whoever, and that pop-up is saying that you've got a virus, and that virus, is going to corrupt your machine, and that it's giving you a phone number to call or a link to click to get remote access assistance and so on, don't. Just disconnect from the internet. Run your antivirus, update your operating system, update your antivirus, update your everything, update your browser. There are a number of things that you can and should be doing right now. I know we're kind of running out of time here, Paul, but let me run everybody through a couple of things to be aware of, okay? So just give me 1 second here, Paul, 1 second. My apologies. All right. So this
Dennis Hunter just joined. I go delete and forget about them.
Yeah, definitely.
When you click on them, what it does is it lets the sender know that they've sent it to an active email. It validates your email. And even like when they send you spam and emails that have unsubscribe in them.
Yeah, I just list them as actual spam, and they go right to my spam folder, and I delete them, which is much easier to do opposed to than hitting the unsubscribe button. So a couple of things that everybody should be aware of, like things that you should be doing right now to reduce risk, and that's what I'm all about. And I give these presentations all day, all year, every day. So a couple things definitely to do right here and now. Hardware. Make sure your devices such as PCs, laptops, mobiles, modems, routers, and any peripherals are newer. Older hardware, 5+ years old, sometimes lacks the internal resources to run current, more secure software and firmware. So, for example, if you're running like a 2014-15 Dell and you're watching this on Windows 7, Microsoft no longer even supports Windows 7. And so that older hardware and older operating system is vulnerable to viruses. So anything you're doing on that device, it's like driving a 1970 Pinto with bald tires, bad brakes, dry belts. Someone's going to die, You want to update your hardware so you can update your software, right? Your hardware that's old doesn't do you any good. Buy yourself a new Mac and you'll be very happy, right? Software, of course, keep all devices, operating systems updated, like I mentioned, with the latest software updates and critical security patches. So, for example, at a minimum, you should be in Windows 10 at this point. And then Windows or Mac, I think, is Monterey, or they just the one with the V, the TUV just came out very recently. I forget the name of it. But same thing with the Mac. Update your Mac as well. Macs are more secure than Windows machines due to the fact that there are only tens of thousands of viruses targeting Macs, whereas there are millions targeting PCs. Microsoft opened up their operating system to the world to come inside and take a peek and develop software around it decades ago, whereas Apple kept it relatively closed. Is reason why, really. Security software, install and run paid versions of antivirus, anti-spyware, anti-phishing, and a firewall. Paid versions.
Now, let me just jump in on this one here. The antivirus companies, there's a handful of antivirus companies, and what a lot of these crooks do also is they send you phishing emails, scareware, to tell you, oh, your virus protection has lapsed, and you may have that software on your computer, and it's very easy for you. Well, I have this software. I'm getting an email from this company that there's a problem with my software, so I've got to update it. And you'll call the number, and they'll remote connect to your computer, and they'll shut you down.
Yeah. So, Paul, anytime you get any notification like that whatsoever, anything, phone call, email, text message, listen, all of you where you have a credit card that's being billed monthly, annually, whatever, you should have a login. If you're using Norton Symantec, if you're using McAfee, you're using AVG, Avast, you should have a login. Like, you should have a user account. So any account administration that needs to be done, log in and administer it there. Emails are just too easy to mass blast to millions of people, and you're not going to know what's real and fake. If you get a notification saying, hey, it's time to pay for your antivirus because your subscription's up, fine. But log in opposed to clicking a link in the body of the email to access some spoofed website. Go to your password manager, go to your favorites menu, type McAfee.com, whatever it might be, but don't access that site via a link in an email.
Well, and another one that's big is the Messenger. We all use Messenger. Most of us do. I can't tell you how many times somebody gets a message in Messenger. Oh, is this you? Or I found this video of you. They click on it because they're curious. They unleash malware on their device. Yeah. And now that malware infects their machine, grabs their database, and sends out duplicates of that same message to everybody.
Yeah. I tell everybody, anytime you're getting a phone call or a text message from somebody who you don't know, A, let the phone call go to voicemail. B, if you get a text message that just says hello or it's got a link or whatever, just report, spam, and block.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Don't engage. Don't engage. Look at my dad and I have this conversation, this ongoing dialogue, that there isn't a day that goes by that there isn't somebody out there trying to pick our pocket. Okay, whether it's the government, a utility who's overcharging us for something, or scumball scammers worldwide that are trying to fleece us. And as long as you are paying attention, as long as you're aware, as long as you're alert, as long as you know what to look out for, and you're not just so quick to click links and quick to respond and quick to react, just kind of wrap your head around what's happening in front of you And don't just react emotionally. Or if your blood pressure's up for whatever reason, the communication is putting pressure on you to do something, don't just react. Take your time with it, because there always has been, there is, and there always will be this criminal element out there, and they're always going to be stalking their next victim. Don't let it be you. Take this information and don't worry about any of it, but do something about it. As long as you take action and do something about it, you will significantly reduce your risk.
We've all heard the term, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So, look, you've gotten some great information here that you can use today, tomorrow morning, to protect yourself, to minimize the risk. Because it's not a question of if it's going to happen. It's a question of when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But an ounce of prevention is always worth a pound of cure. By taking the steps outlined here tonight, you can greatly reduce your risk and share it with your friends, your family members, to reduce their risk. Now, Robert, you do this for big companies as well. You do training, you do exploit hacks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So protectnowllc.com, cybersecurity awareness training. We, for anybody who's accepting credit cards, anybody who's providing any financing, the Federal Trade Commission is coming down on everybody. Huge fines if you're not compliant. Companies like ours, we provide virtual chief information security officer, remote and or on-site installations, monitoring of your networks, vulnerability scanning, vulnerability testing, dark web monitoring for your company officers. We offer ongoing training, cybersecurity awareness training, where we do it remotely via Zoom, on site in front of audiences, at conferences, at company and corporate events, phishing simulation training, pretty much anything and everything that a small, medium, large business needs to make sure that they become a tougher target. And it's affordable. We're a small firm. We're a half a dozen people. We're nimble, and we have some top talent to make sure that bad guys don't choose you as their next victim.
Now, a lot of my network is on automotive. Dealerships employ scores of people. They're like ATM machines, really, because of the data that they have in them.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very easy to become victim in a corporate setting.
Yeah.
So I would implore everybody that's out there to set something up, have a conversation with Robert, set something up to really see what your exposure is. I think that when you go through one of these phishing simulator exercises, I think it'll be very eye-opening. And you know what? I'd rather find out that you failed in an exercise than failed in the real world. And the way I can relate that really easily is that I used to spend hours and hours on Flight Simulator, flying all kinds of anything from a Cessna, Piper Cup to a Learjet. And the great thing about a flight simulator is that when you crash, you just hit reset and you start the game all over again. But when you're in a business where hundreds of people depend on you for their livelihood and thousands of people depend on you to provide them some level of security with the data that they've entrusted you with,
right?
The time to fail is not in the air. The time to fail is in a flight simulator. And that's where something like this is extremely eye-opening.
Yeah, yeah. And our training is designed more than anything to get people to care about security. So when it comes to security, most people look at it as a form of paranoia. Like I don't want to live like that, they say. I don't want to be paranoid. It's like, no. Security is not about that. Security is about being in control. Security is about knowing what your options are. Security is about protecting your family. It's about protecting your kids and your spouse. It's about protecting your bank account. It's about protecting your clients from harm, from fraud. It's about risk management and risk reduction. And when you understand what security is and isn't, and how it's a benefit to you, it's something that you want, it's something that you need, and why, and that's how we teach it. Then from there, every email that comes in, every time somebody knocks on the door, text message comes in, you're that much more sensitive, acutely aware of what that inbound communication is and what to look out for. So we take people from being aware of security to appreciating security. So the difference between security awareness and security appreciation is awareness, like I'm aware of these things. Appreciation is you do something about it because it matters to you. And that's fundamentally what we teach. And so if we have an opportunity to speak to your people, we make security personal to them. And when you make it personal, it's heart-based. And when you teach security from the heart up, opposed to from the head up, from the heart up, it really means something and matters to them.
Now that's awesome. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for joining tonight. You've shared some great tips that hopefully people will take to heart and do something with before it's too late. Like I said, mine I caught early. So, I always look for the silver lining in every cloud, right? Yes, it sucks that it happened to me, but it happened on such a small scale that I learned so much from it that I'm able to share this with others to prevent it from happening to them. So for that, I'm truly thankful. And thank you again. If you could put a link after the show, put a link to the website where somebody can explore some of this information with you, that would be great. And yeah, so everybody be safe.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks a lot. Stay on after the show for a moment. To those watched tonight, thank you very much. To those watching on the replay, thank you. If you can help somebody by sharing this information with them to protect themselves, they will love you for it. Have a safe and successful week next week. Until next week, we'll see you on Sunday Night Live.